Good evening. In 1941, America desperately needed heroes, and Time magazine chose to provide us those heroes in the form of guys who flew planes like this one, a P-40 Warhawk with a shark's mouth painted on the front. These clearly identifying and unique marks were signs of the American volunteer group, better known as the Flying Tigers. The Flying Tigers were one of the most relevant organizations in keeping Japan from overwhelming China in the early stages of World War II. And so what we're going to talk about tonight are how this group was formed, their founder, Claire Chennault, and the tactics that they used so successfully against the Japanese. So let's talk about their origins and their mission. Their main mission was to protect the Burma Road because all of the eastern seaports in China had been closed off. So the Burma Road was one of the only, actually it was the only method of getting supplies into China, and it was about 600 miles long, and their mission was to protect that road, defend it from air attacks and ground assault. And that's what they did. And so their mission was actually started on December 20th, 1941, from Kunming, China. There was a force of 10 bombers, Japanese bombers, coming in, and they were on a raid. And the Flying Tigers rose up and met them in the raid. They actually shot down 4 of the bombers, made the rest drop their bombs early in advance of their targets, and then turn around and head for home before they could complete their mission. And this actually was the first time that the Flying Tigers acted. Now, the Flying Tigers only were in existence from December 20th, 1941 until July 4th, 1942. So really only about 7 months. And during that 7 months, a whole legend was created from their exploits. So that small victory that we just talked about on December 20th, 1941 created an avalanche of wanting to know more. And that was done by Time magazine because they wrote an article called Blood for the Tigers. And this article created the heroes that we're talking about today. They flew supplies also up and down the Burma Road to Chinese troops that needed them. Their mission was also to defend it. So we talked about origin and mission, and that's what they did. The second main point I want to talk about is the founder of the group, Claire Chennault. Now, Claire Chennault was a chain-smoking 20-year veteran of the U.S. Army Air Corps, and he had a nickname called Old Leatherface because they said his face looked like worn leather that had been cut with a dull knife. And here's a picture of Claire Chennault. So you can see it was a pretty apt description, but the man was a unique, innovative thinker. He had been an unwelcome advocate of fighter tactics in the U.S. Army Air Corps that was focused strictly on unstoppable bombing forces, right? So they didn't believe in fighter tactics. So Claire Chennault, after he retired, was approached by Chiang Kai-shek of China and said, I want you to come in and I want you to create a Chinese Air Force that can defend our borders. So that's what he did. He went to China and he actually created this. But as part of the creation, he saw that the Chinese had no way to deal with the new Japanese planes that were being developed and being put into the war. So what he did was he got with the Army and the Navy of the United States and said, hey, send us some help. We need better planes. We need better equipment to fight this battle. And the Army and the Navy said no. So he went into President Roosevelt and said, hey, I need some help. President Roosevelt said, I can't do that. It's politically unsound for me, but let me see what I can do. So he went completely off book and got him 100 planes and sent them to China. And during this time, Claire Chennault was recruiting former active duty pilots to man his ragtag Air Force. And that's what actually happened. And that's how they got the Flying Tigers up and running. Now, they also paid them 3 times the active duty amount pay. And also, they got a $500 bonus for every plane they shot down. So essentially, Chennault created a group of bounty hunters. Pretty cool, huh? So using all of this and all these planes and this new equipment and the pilots, how was he going to actually employ them? So this is the third point where Chennault showed his innovative thinking and created a whole new set of tactics for these fighters. The P-40 Warhawk was not as maneuverable as the Japanese planes, so he thought of ways to employ it to be successful. And one of them was to climb above bombing raids and then to dive back through them, firing their machine guns the whole time and actually taking out the bombers that way, and then circling back up and over and doing it again. That is the tactics that he used to address bombing raids. Now, ground assaults, he did it a different way. He would let them advance into a pass or a gorge, and then he would bomb the sides of the gorge and create an avalanche that would come down and sometimes bury the Japanese advancing forces, but always it would shut off the pass. Therefore, the Japanese would have to come back around and find another place to go. Fantastic tactics. And in conclusion, I would like to say that these pilots and Claire Chennault and the tactics they employed were out of the box, unknown, unheard of. So all these events, the Flying Tigers proved themselves to be a relevant cog in the defense of China against Japan's advancing forces. They're relatively unheard of amongst the main populace, but they were heroes at the time when they needed to be. So they were a unique group of men at the right place at the right time. Thank you.